that. Shut him up.
Is that better?
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
With the Bruce, the Yang, and Captain Socks.
Hello, future people. Are you again listening to Getting Tabled with your host, Captain Socks?
Hello, good friends. It actually feels good to be recognized on our intro, finally, again. I know it's like the third time now, but it feels good after, what, 2 years?
Hey, we recognized you when you weren't even here the first time, so hush.
George, his ego's getting too big. We're going to have to take it off again.
Dang it!
Yeah, we'll just revert it back. And then, of course, our man in the field on a remote site and location. I don't know but Bruce.
Yes, that would be me. I am in the home of the Tasmanian Devil, not the stupid Warner Brothers one, but the one that looks kind of like a cat. Also known as
That's
Tasmania.
why he's wearing different. He's wearing headphones. He's not wearing some sort of weird I'm not going to go there. How we been, gents? Was I here for the last one? I can't.
You were here for the last one.
Yeah, you were here for the last one.
Was I? Okay.
But I've been well. This is the most relaxed and calm I've been in months.
What's that like? Relaxed. I can't even say it.
All I can say is it's been a long time coming.
That's what she said.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
New ships for victory at sea.
Yep.
The first thing I see when I read this is it's a good thing that the pronouns her and his both start with H. Otherwise, whenever there's a change in the monarchy, the British would have to change, the designation of their ships.
I'd never actually realised that. Yeah, because it's His
Although
Majesty's service and Her Majesty's service. That's a good point.
Yep.
So squirrel.
All right. So, Victory at Sea is a game we talked about a couple of times, quite a few episodes ago now.
Yes.
So they've actually released some new ships, starting with the HMS Ark Royal, which is... Does it actually say...
An aircraft carrier.
It's an aircraft carrier. I think they're both aircraft carriers from memory.
They are. Yeah. No, the Tirpitz is a battleship. It was a sister ship to the Bismarck.
Okay. So it's quite a nice
That rings a bell.
ship. The Bismarck is a rather famous ship.
Yeah.
Yes, I who's making the statement question, Bruce? Let me act stupid.
You don't need to act. Of those two larger ships, for me personally, I think the Tirpitz looks more interesting. Just because, I know that they're cool because they're kind of a huge thing in technology, but aircraft carriers kind of look really boring. They're just a ship with nothing on them. That's because...
Big tower.
Well, yeah.
Big tower
But everything else is just
can...
blank. Where the actual battleships have big guns, and everybody loves big guns, and I don't know. It's just visually more interesting.
Agreed.
The other
and then
two
lots
things...
of little airplanes.
Yep, quite literally. So you've got the Royal Navy aircraft, which is your usual small base with multiple planes on them. And you've got
this is the first.
Yep.
This is the first big box worth of aircraft that we've seen for Victory at Sea as well. So normally they've come in 4 stands of aircrafts. So with this a little bit bigger box, you're getting 9 stands, 4 smaller flights and a larger aircraft in a single stand. So it's good to see there's some more aircraft types being released. Hopefully the Japanese and the U.S. forces will get their boxes here soon. I know I'm waiting for them because right now all I've got is fighter aircraft for both the American and Japanese fleets. That
well, if the game wants to be historically accurate, the Japanese fleet will get released, then we'll get the U.S. stuff.
That is true.
That's not a bad point. Also, half of the US stuff will just disappear for some strange reason. Not just off the table, but off the entire storefront. So the US will have a completely new release of stuff. Moving on, though. I thought I'd touch on Monster Apocalypse again because they actually showed off some new monsters that are coming. There's this giant-looking lion creature that they're calling Cassander. I'm sure that Cassander is a name that refers to something, but I don't know what that thing is.
Did you Google it?
No, I couldn't be bothered. But it's a giant lion creature. Who cares what it is? Who cares what it stands for? It's a giant lion creature. Apparently they are protectors, so they're obviously trying to protect the city from being destroyed. For those watching on the video thing, there's also a Preceptor, which is this giant purple robot thing. Masters of the Eighth Dimension. Is that what that is? Oh yeah, it is too.
Looks like an eye.
They also seem to have given a special name to their semi-clear resin. It's Hypercast. Which just makes me roll my eyes because it's a silly name. It's a resin miniature, just call it resin. And this is the Armadax, which is a giant... It's like Godzilla meets a crocodile or something. And there's definitely not Cthulhu.
Well, I was gonna say, with the exception of Cassander, all of this screams like old Japanese Godzilla movie stuff.
Pretty much, most of it, because it's all B movie. Like there is like an ape faction that is definitely not King Kong. There's definitely giant lizard stuff that's definitely not Godzilla. It doesn't really try to hide away from that much, to be honest. There is a couple of smaller stuff as well. There's these Basher and Blasters, which I believe are the ones that go with Cassander. And there's these other robots that obviously go with the Preceptor. But that range is getting significantly big by now. Like, for a small game that was just kind of an offshoot that they were toying with, they've genuinely moved it along. I've just realised that entire conversation didn't show all of the things. Because I forgot to turn off the screensaver. So, what I was just referring to, for those watching the video, Cassander is the giant... Let me move my mouse. Is the giant lion thing there. The Eighth Dimension is the purple thing next to him. This bright green resin thing on the bottom is the definitely not Cthulhu and definitely not Godzilla stuff. Now, however, I will move on by going to TTCombat. Because I am not at home, I'm running all of this off a laptop, and because it's just a laptop, it can't really handle me opening 20 tabs and then moving between them. So, because normally what I do is
Bruce, in other words.
Yeah, well, I normally open everything in advance so that you can't see me going back and forth to the run sheet, but I'm not going to be able to get away with that today. This particular news story is on twofold. The Industrial Gubbins is being released by TT Workshop, which is kind of an accessories pack to accessorize up your buildings. It's like lots of cogs and ladders and just something you can play with.
Steampunky.
Yeah, it's very steampunky. Bases and stuff is another good thing. Just something to toy with. The bigger side of it however, is that this also means that their MDF terrain is back online as well, which had been offline for a little while, same as their because they shut the laser cutting down for a little while things were in lockdown to try and stay within what the law was requiring of
people. Yeah, they locked down, but then they also reorganized how they're going to produce stuff too as well. I know they did some internal reorganizing. Yeah, and they'll be doing that with their resin cast stuff too. So for those of you looking for, I know people have been asking on the Facebook pages for Drop Zone and Dropfleet where to get stuff. Because you're seeing it also as sold out on the website. Just bear with them.
That's because people don't look at news. Because although it was announced on every notification that they possibly have, people don't read things.
Absolutely right. Yep.
So. This next story, although George doesn't know it yet, is for him.
I'm already watching it.
Yeah, because this is the Cromlech. This is the next Cromlech thing, which is definitely not Primaris Space Wolves. Definitely not, because they're called Sons of Thor.
No, they're Sons of Thor.
Exactly.
It's not Space Wolves.
But these look gorgeous, and they fit within very well.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give. They look beautiful. I could give them a solid 8.5. You know, they don't show what the resin looks like and what it looks like on the sprue and how assembly goes and everything, but the finished product looks amazing. Now, you can take a good paint job and take a, Citadel fine crap and paint it up pretty good so it looks decent.
Yep.
Sorry, I meant fine cast. Fine cast.
Yes, totally. That was definitely a mistake. Generally speaking, Cromlech stuff tends to be quite clean and well done. That doesn't mean that this is going to be, obviously, but generally speaking, they've got a fairly good reputation. I have had one of their products before. I don't remember what it was. And this is beside the dice that I brought from the mini dice that I brought a while ago that we'd spoken about came from these guys. But I have had some of their resin stuff too. It is generally very good. But I can't talk for this because I haven't got this yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll pick a. I've picked up one thing for my Space Wolves, and I don't know if I'm picking up anything else anymore for them because I've got about all I want for them. I just want to have an army to play casually with. I'm not one of these, chasing the meta fanboy things. So, I did get a kit to make my Primaris Dreadnought look more Space Wolvy. I will be doing a video on that because I am actually quite impressed with Russian resin.
Yeah, they tend to have pretty good kits.
And now I also have a travel soapbox too.
A travel soapbox?
They use a travel soap dish to put the resin parts in to keep them from getting crushed in shipping.
Oh, that's actually quite clever.
Yeah, no,
Though they are something that just comes from a dollar store usually.
Right, but that's a good cheap way to protect something.
Yeah, true. Just make sure you wash it first.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So
next,
loaded question time. What month is it, George?
It is February.
Yeah. Captain Socks, what month is it?
February.
So, why is it that Games Workshop are showing us Orc stuff? Because it's not October.
Oh, because it's not October. I thought this was some weird loaded Valentine's gift question.
That's what I thought. I was like, wait a second, where's he going with this?
Casey doesn't want orcs?
No,
my wife doesn't want them either.
No, I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day. If I'm dating, I tend to try to be romantic most of the time, not just in February because I've been told I have to be. I love February. It allows me to talk about the Saint Valentine massacre in Chicago. Yeah, it's amusing how many people actually think that's where it started. So, no, St. Valentine's Day is about 500 years old. Yeah, they're showing off some feral orc stuff. This is going to be for Underworlds. It's like a gorgeous mini, like absolutely stunning. It's probably the best feral orc we've seen from them, though it's also the only feral orc we've seen from them since the 90s.
Well, I got a question. What's the difference between an orc and a feral orc? I thought that was the same thing.
The other ones wear armor.
Do regular orcs wear... Oh.
Because it's Age of Sigmar,
but they're not
remember?
feral. They're not wild, blood-crazed beasts.
Are we talking in the case of orcs generally, or in the lore of the game that they represent?
I was talking generally. I mean,
okay.
What's the difference between an orc and a feral orc? It's the same thing.
I know. They, storyline-wise, have tried to separate them by saying that feral orcs have like literally gone nuts, and try to separate themselves from the rest of the clan. They can't think clearly and stuff anymore like the other orcs can, and it's a bit convoluted, but
I'm still not hearing any distinction between the two.
The thing I don't understand is why they have to be two different species to begin with. Why can't you just have different types of orc clans? Why does there have to be a storyline reason as to why these guys don't want to have armor and why they just want to use cobbled together stuff? I mean, does there have to be a reason why as to why these orcs don't like the other orcs? They're orcs. Orcs don't ever like
different
other orcs.
Color of skin?
Who knows?
It's a very convoluted way of doing it, but yeah. I mean, I like this mini. It's a really cool looking mini. I also like... I don't remember who it was, but somebody did a Photoshop of this where they took the belt from his waist and put it where the head was, and then took the head and put it where the belt was, and it just looked awesome.
Oh, jeez.
It was really well done. And of course it was tagged with "Don't worry, Games Workshop, I'll fix that for you."
It sounds like something 12-year-old me would do.
Yeah. Up next, we've got another preview of the Cursed City, showing off some of their cursed skeleton. Storyline-wise, these are like what used to be the city guard, and they've been corrupted, and like as usual. The thing I found rather interesting, because there's a second link there for you two, is how similar these look to the Sepulchral Guard from Underworlds a couple of years ago. They are completely different minis, but they very clearly... There is definitely a link there. They look like they all come from the same spot. And I think that's quite a nice... Whether it's a deliberate homage or whether it's just something that they did. It's like, well, these look really cool, let's do something like that. But I thought...
Or it's the same designer, he's just like, I'll just do this and like I'll be done like 2 weeks early.
Yeah, alternate the scope just a little bit.
They do look really nice. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how this game ends up working. But between this and the last thing that we saw, I would argue that we're already seeing positive things for the next Warhammer Quest. Whether I grab it or not is another question. I honestly don't know that.
Yeah.
My housemate grabbed the Silver Tower, and we were both tempted to grab Blackstone Fortress, but didn't in the end, because we kind of left it too long, and at that point it was off the store. I try to be very selective with my Games Workshop stuff, because there's so much stuff I have that never ends up getting... because I only have so much limited time. But board games are really easy to play.
Yes, they are. Very much so.
I mean, and I can understand, they're in the business to make money. They've got a great intellectual property, but it's like, for me, like all these constant game releases is like, what about Imperial Guard? Where is a new release for that army?
Yeah.
Where is a new release for this? Where, for crying out loud, why can't you do something like, expand an army more? Like, I just watched Battle of the Five Armies today. Where is the Dwarven Mounted Cavalry?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I understand what they're doing, but there's so much other stuff that has been around for years that, and you'll find a lot of fans of the game saying they do this, but they just neglect it.
Socks, was it you and I that was discussing something similar to this a couple of weeks ago?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. But I think we did.
Commentary-wise, I mean, I 100% agree with George, just for the record. And that shouldn't really surprise anyone, because I've gone on this complaining streak more than once. But the reason they do it is because, well, Space Marines are our thing. We need to build up the Space Marines, and we'll give just enough for everything else. But then Space Marines are the thing that sold the most. So, well, clearly everybody wants that. We need to do more of those. And just another release for this to keep up. But this is the one that's really selling, so we need to sell more of this. And they've set themselves, set themselves on a... The problem is that the sales indicate that they have to keep on doing what they're doing. But, and if there's gamers out there that disagree with me on this, not on the fanboy of, well, you're not a gamer if you don't have... Like genuinely, if you disagree with the reason behind this, or the thoughts on this, then be honest. But most people that only buy Blood Angels or Space Marines or Dark Angels, etc., 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 only, well, not only, but one of the main reasons that they go in that direction is not because they enjoy painting Space Marines. Usually it's because... But Games Workshop never actually support these other armies. Why would I bother? I mean, Eldar, for example, is something that is gorgeous to paint. I mean, Eldar don't need a new release, with the exception of quite a few units. Their Guardians are on the edge of really needing to be redone, for example, because they haven't been done again since, hell, long
the
before
Avatar.
The Avatar is where I was leading to. We've said that before. Of all of the models that they have, that's the one that needs to be done the most. And it's disgustingly bad now. It doesn't hold together.
Just as a prime example, to throw their sales numbers in their face, they just did a release here, within the last year, and it went nuts. People have been screaming about it for years, and they finally did it, and it sold like wildfire. You ever hear of Sisters of Battle?
Yeah, add the Necrons to that too. The Necrons got exactly the same treatment. And I would actually argue that the Necrons didn't need it as much.
No. The Necrons, as they were, like, they could have gone with a couple new models, like redesign the big obelisk ship or whatever. But I mean, that's it. Like the difference between a warrior then and a warrior now. It's a robot skeleton.
Yeah.
But,
they are more interesting to paint now because you've actually got posing options, which is definitely an improvement. And I'm not downplaying... I mean, the new Necrons are good.
Yeah.
I have been quoted as saying that more than once. But it's not something that they needed to put stuff out for. Not when...
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, Eldar have a lot of very old units. And as a company where they're trying to get away from the Finecast stuff, I think it's more than half of the Eldar range is Finecast at this point. Most of the Catachan stuff is. Catachan being Imperial Guard, for those that don't know.
The Rambo and
Rambo and
whatever.
Dutch.
Yes, Dutch. That was the name I was trying to remember.
I have a story about something my niece said last night that I'm going to come into later. But yeah, there's definitely some armies out there that need some attention. And as someone that's a huge fan of Kroot, I'm not actually going to be here and go, where's my Kroot army? Because that's not really the same argument.
No, because people are just going to point at you and laugh.
Yeah. Well, it's not so much that. I actually do think it would sell very well. But wanting to have an army that doesn't exist is not the same thing as this model is really old and should have been done 10 years ago. It's not the same.
Right. Yeah. No.
For
argument.
I would ask.
Hey, where'd Captain Sucks go?
Boo. Everything went weird, and we're now. Yeah. Okay. I had wondered why he'd been so quiet. Though, generally speaking, he doesn't have a lot of opinion on the game's
Yeah.
stuff anyway.
So, yeah, especially when we start going on a rant of like, why aren't you? But hey, that was weird because that leads into a great segue. But unfortunately, Captain Socks isn't here to talk about the next weird thing. Weird.
Yeah, I decided to have a look at. This is another Malifaux thing. They've released a bit of a teaser for a new mini that's coming in called The Damned, which is like a half undead moose human type of thing. There's a name for what it's supposed to be. It's not a jackal. Is it jackalope? No.
Well, so
what's the moose head thing?
No, jackalope
from
is.
Myth?
I can't remember.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I was gonna say though. So looking at that mini though, well, the sculpt of it, it screams from the board game that I'll be getting this year from Method Games, Hell: The Last Saga. The Viking horror that looks straight like a monster out of that game.
Yeah,
I think it looks really cool and creepy.
Oh, very much so. That Wyrd's Malifaux was really good with the creepy stuff. Like everything has a twist in it. Like even the human stuff, when you start looking into the background, is really, really screwed up. But yeah, this thing, like, yeah, this is just gorgeous. I'm sure that it's going to be a real nightmare to build. Get it, nightmare. But not just like they are pretty well known for how complicated their builds are. It does tend to, because they design something to look good and then they work out how to split it all up later. They don't sculpt to make the casting easier. They sculpt so that they get the best end result, and then you will learn how to put it together and it will push your skills essentially.
And message from Captain Socks is the internet went down in his part of the world.
Awesome. Well, that being the case,
So
do you have any other thoughts on Wyrd? Oh, hang on. Oh no, never mind.
no, that's JP.
Yeah.
Am I here?
Ugh. Oh, hey.
My internet went down here at my house, so I'm on my phone now.
Awesome.
So we'll see how this goes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna turn you down just a hair.
Yeah, me too.
Go ahead, say something again real quick.
All
Socks?
right, well, let's try this.
Yeah, that's
Actually,
good.
yeah, just pop back up. So give me a second, and I'll join back on the computer.
Through the power of
Okay.
editing, we will be back in a moment. Hey, JP.
Well, no, is that JP though? I thought it was Socks' thing, and he didn't have a camera because he's on his phone.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Hey, everything's back to
How's that?
normal. Yep, good.
Hey,
All right. Technical difficulties. Gotta love them.
what happened? Did the wind go above 12 miles an hour there?
Yes, and took out the entire internet. That's what we suspect is when the wind gets too high, it shuts down everything internet-wise because it's when we get horrible weather, our internet goes down out here. So,
How
but I
does
think I'm back for.
how does a state that doesn't exist have more reliable internet than an area that does exist?
I don't
Well,
know.
okay, so a little quick side story. A couple years ago, Casey went out to Indianapolis for something that her youngest brother was doing, and she and her mom were getting weather alerts, on their cell phones when they got there, and they were like, "High wind warnings, watch out!" Sustained winds of 24 miles an hour, wind gusts of 35, and we're like, we have sustained of 40 and gusts of 90. What is wrong with Indiana?
When you're not an area that has those
So-
sort of things regularly, you tend to be a little bit more paranoid about them.
Absolutely.
Well, the thought is Indiana gets more moisture, and so the ground is softer, and so the trees can blow over easier.
But the other thing is that you need to remember is, like, parts of the US that don't get snow, the moment that they do get snow, tend to have wild warnings because people don't know how to drive in the snow. as opposed to somewhere like Wyoming where everybody's used to it, they usually don't give the warnings for a little bit.
They have snow year round, so everyone's used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. We have snow year round here.
How many years is it? Well, we just finished talking about the weird damned model, like the undead-looking moose thing, which is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Which we thought was weird that, your internet went out while we were
right?
talking about weird stuff.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Up next, looking at PWork Wargames, which is a company we did look at a little while ago, because I brought a couple of their mats from them. They have released like starter sets for people that just like don't have anything essentially, or want. If I was playing a completely different game set, then I probably don't have terrain that's going to suit what I'm trying to do. So they've got different war sets. For example, there's one here that's like a 4x6 board with enough terrain to fill it, 44x60, etc., etc. This is a really smart idea.
They're 4 different sets, but they come in 3 different sizes worth of terrain.
Yep.
Which isn't bad. I have to agree.
I mean, PWorks actually do have some good prices already. Which is why I brought mine.
So, and just right off the bat too, looking at the 22-inch by 30-inch, which that's also a great display board size too.
That's a good point, actually.
62 euro, so about $65 for us socks.
Mm-hmm.
187 for you, Bruce.
Yep.
That's not a bad amount of terrain to do a display board with too.
No.
For those that are interested in doing that sort of thing, like doing tournaments and, the group I do game with, that's one of the things they're just like, oh, I gotta get my display board ready. And some people are like, yeah, here's my neoprene mat, and I just stick my stuff on. And some people are like, I'm gonna build a cabin and make it look like the tank's driving through it. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. So with this, I mean, yes, you've got your mat. There's going to be people that'll roll their eyes at the mat as well anyway, because some people will look at that and say, well, yeah, but that's cheating. I have mixed feelings. I don't think it's cheating, but I can understand why people say that. But with this, all you need is a bit of MDF to go underneath it, to carry it to the next thing. You got to spray paint the terrain. You need a black and a grey, maybe a very light grey to go with it. I mean, you can go to nuts on it if you really wanted to, but you could make this look good really, really easily.
Oh yeah, for sure. Look at the one they've got there. It's like the painted one. The starter set. Yeah. Looking at that, there's 6 colors tops in that. You got a black, you got a green, you got some blue there for some rust orange, some white.
Looks like some red crates, red on the crates or something like that. But yeah.
So
I mean, there's less colors of paint in that than I have fingers. So
yeah, I mean, having a really nice display board does matter if you're going into a competitive environment. People would argue that it's a waste of time, but it can actually get you points in the painting thing. But at the same time, you don't want the time that's going into your display board to take away from the time that should be going on what does matter, the army. So, this is a nice middle ground.
Well, I was paid in peanuts to get a display board ready for a guy's army while he was getting the army ready, so.
Yep.
He also did take first, so,
Yeah,
the peanuts were good invested on his part.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was...
See here.
Rather than just like showing off, hey, this is a new mat, that was actually something that was genuinely something a bit different. So I thought that was actually worth looking at. This next thing is a Kickstarter that, although it might look like it, is not just some random Kickstarter that I found. We have covered Printable Terrain a couple of times, which is one of the bigger 3D printing dungeon company. They did like that underground and that goblin set where it's like caves and then there's lots of mushroomy stuff.
This legit looks like some stuff I already have.
Well, that's because this is designed around their terrain. This is a piece of software that you can use to design the full layout of what it's going to be on the computer, and then it will organise what pieces that you have used, and then print them in a series so that you don't have to organise it for yourself. It's just... I mean, I am possibly oversimplifying this, but it's a building thing so that you can design your buildings, and it will break it down and print every piece that you need to build the thing that you've designed.
Wow, this is really cool looking.
Cool.
They're not the first people to do something like this. There is a town builder one that we discussed a little while ago, that have a thing where you can build it, but then from memory, I think that one just told you what you had to print and then kind of listed it for you. I don't know if it organises it in the best way for it to be printed and everything. I could be wrong on that though. Printable Terrain is pretty much, I would argue, the #1 company in this sort of stuff. I believe that Tinker Terrain is a joint venture with someone else, but I'm not 100% on that. I haven't spoken to them myself. Well, not for like 3 years anyway. Because I have met them, but it was a very long time ago, and it was before we were doing the podcast. But I thought this was
pretty snazzy looking stuff.
Yeah. Everything that Printable Terrain design is designed specifically to be printed without supports. It is, however, worth noting, I mean, you can print this stuff on both types of printers, like the usual, I'm printing a line and then I'm printing another line thing, or the resin ones, like
a filament printer.
Yeah, filament, thank you. But my advice, as someone that's been playing with a resin printer, is that you're wasting your time printing this on a resin printer. I mean, it does look better, it's just a pain, it's just not worth it. You're better off going the other way with this stuff. Because in
my opinion, resins for the mini, filaments for this stuff.
You will get more detail out of it doing it this way, but not to the point where I feel it's worth it. Because this stuff tends to be designed in a way where, even on a filament printer, it doesn't actually look that bad. I mean, you're going to see the lines, but it's usually done in a way where the lines actually look like they're part of the actual thing.
Well... And then this is a while ago too, and I just remember this. Badger made that primer that's designed to be a little thicker to help hide those lines. So
and in the case of the resin, you get issues with resin printers where it kind of does like an elephant's foot on the bottom of your thing, that kind of throw out the measurements on these things really annoyingly. And resin tends to be more fragile, which doesn't suit itself to being built in terrain. In my opinion. I mean, if you're going to build something and then never pull it apart again, maybe, but I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, something that you may be using to remodularize new other terrain, you're going to want that plastic.
Yeah.
And this is some Kiwi stuff here.
Yep.
The company?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said...
I didn't know they're in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like that explains why you... Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are... Well, Printable Terrain is based in Australia, but I believe this is a joint venture with someone based in New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's possible that Printable Terrain might have staff in both areas, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Now, Captain Socks. There was a stream earlier today.
On Wednesday the 3rd.
Oh, okay.
So about 4 days ago. So
not so much in the way of news, but what's happening in Star Wars.
Yeah, so Atomic Mass Games, as we all know, has taken over the Star Wars line for Armada, X-Wing, and Legion from Fantasy Flight Games. They had a stream on Wednesday afternoon for about an hour or so, 45 minutes, to kind of go over what they've got planned in terms of announcements and stuff and the games moving forward. So starting this next week on Wednesdays and Fridays, they're going to be having weekly streams going over the various games, some painting demos, plans for the future, new releases, that kind of stuff. So every week, there's gonna be twice weekly streams. And then they announced during that time that March 18th to the 22nd, or somewhere around there, they're going to have 4 days of Twitch streams covering not just Star Wars, but possibly even MCP stuff. So Marvel Crisis Protocol, they'll be covering a whole bunch of stuff. So kind of their own mini Gen Con type announcement weekend. We'll be streaming a bunch of stuff. They did say that they're going to look at redeveloping organized play again, that Fantasy Flight was well known for the Star Wars line games. That's where they have their own little regional tournaments, their local national tournaments that would then feed into their own world championship type tournaments. They're looking at mid-year of this year that they'll start hosting the regionals and the local championships, depending on COVID in your local areas as well. And then looking at the later half of later end of the year, beginning of next year, is kind of their national championships, and then moving into worlds possibly for mid 2022. They did show off some of the models that we've already talked about for Armada and Legion, and so I don't want to discuss that anymore. But yeah, it's some good. I'm feeling good for what AMG's planning on doing with the Star Wars line. So looking forward to hearing more with their streams coming in.
Yeah. The Star Wars games is definitely something that you want to be, from a gaming perspective, you want it to be approached differently than the way that they're doing it with Marvel, which they're trying to do Marvel as a, they're trying to approach Marvel as a casual reward for building the community type thing, which in the case of that works,
yeah.
But you wouldn't want that given that the Star Wars scene is a lot more competitive than the way that other game is
absolutely designed. They did mention that they are thinking about bringing organized play type tournaments for MCP games as well, so they were kind of toying with that idea as well.
There has been a lot of call for that in the community, so that doesn't surprise me.
So MCP players look forward to that. They are working on something to bring that in as well. So
yeah.
From what Fantasy Flight did with their Star Wars games, as you said, Bruce, organized play type tournaments has been going on since early X-Wing days, and that community loves it. Absolutely loves it.
When I first read the headline there on the run sheet, the first thing I thought was, what is Mercedes doing with Star Wars?
I hadn't even thought of that. That's actually really, that's a good point. To be fair, the AMG is only one very specific part of Mercedes.
Yes,
but that one specific part does some really, really cool stuff.
You're a Top Gear. You're clearly a Top Gear fan.
I'm a fan of the automobile.
Fair
so enough. If someone does something really cool or it looks really cool, I like it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm excited to see. No, I'm excited to see what's coming. I mean, they had kind of hinted that this stuff was going to continue, but they hadn't really put their line in the sand and actually said this is how we're doing it. So it's good that they are actually showing off some evidence, because and there's always going to be that person that's going to go, oh no, because that is just the way that the internet is. But they're showing their cards. They are actually showing evidence that what they've said is going to happen is what's happening, and that's good because they kind of needed to.
They did. If you, for those of you that haven't seen the stream, they did show models of the new Armada ships. They didn't show the Venator, but they had some the actual models for 3 of the 4 Armada ships coming out, and they did show the AA-5 speeder transport that we talked about last. You guys did a couple weeks ago, and the LAT IE transport. They did show the models for those as well. They look like great models. The big spoiler for the LAT is it's also going to be able to be used by the clones, and so a dual heavy transport that the clones or the Empire is going to be able to use. So
interesting. That makes sense, actually, if you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that the same thing though? Clones and the Empire. It's
pretty much. Yeah.
Depends on where in the timeline you are.
Yeah, exactly. If you're talking,
Oh no! Don't ruin the timeline.
so a lot of the people that play the droid faction, the CIS, they're like, well, where's our heavy unit? And so they're kind of left out. So they're hoping that a new heavy unit will come out for the droids, because now every faction will have a second heavy unit, and they only have one with their AT tank that they have. So this will be the third for the Rebels and the Empire.
Yeah. They do kind of need something, yeah. In regards to your comment, though, George, I'm not really sure why you're saying that, because Star Wars fans are the most flexible and understanding, especially when something gets changed in some small, tiny, minor way.
Would you like some oceanfront property in Arizona, Bruce?
I have friends that would probably try to kill me for saying that. Especially when it's fairly obvious.
Who are they?
So I
can link this in the video.
Have we Fragged Empire?
Have we got a bumper for talking about the Indy yet?
No, we don't.
All right.
Fine. You need to do that.
I know.
Okay.
I replaced the carpet that separates the where the tile stops and the carpet begins in my kitchen today. So it's...
That's not.
How does that help us?
On us here, George. Come on.
We are the ones that matter here, George. Your house can be done at any point. We only have a very small amount of time. You are supposed to serve us. Now,
I will share my thoughts later about serving a convict and a guy in the Air Force.
Okay, so aiming for the Indy, Captain Socks is going to have heard part of this spiel before, because
we talked about it once before.
Yes, but it got cut. We had this discussion once before, and the episode ran really long, so I made the decision to cut this segment for two reasons. Number one, I kind of felt like I was just ranting and didn't really explain it properly. And number two, because it was already like an hour and a half without this. And I was like, yeah, I'm cutting something. This is going. And I'll cover it again later. So, Fragged Empire is a role-playing game set in the future. With the pictures of the guns and so forth wasn't already a dead giveaway for that. It does have spin-offs that we will talk about a little bit later. Fragged Empire is actually designed by a guy based in Melbourne, which is not why I'm covering it. I discovered this originally at PAX Australia and was kind of like, oh, I love this. And then just kind of dug deep into this. There is a couple of, because this was so successful, they have had spin-offs. There is a Fragged Kingdom, which is essentially the same rule set, but for something that would suit Dungeons and Dragons. Fragged Seas, which is pirates essentially. Fragged Eternum is kind of like a Dark Soulsy type idea. There is a Cyberpunk that got done recently as well that's not being shown here. All of the prices that you're looking at in the video are Australian dollars. That's what AUD means. They do actually have a miniatures line too, which is very limited, but they are very nice. So the key setting of the story, because it's based in the future, clearly it has to be apocalypse at some point, because that is the law of sci-fi. This is not just post-apocalypse though. This is post-apocalypse. You've had two apocalypses. Basically, at the point in the story where Fragged Empire is starting, is whoever's left over is kind of just starting to get back to the point where they can explore again, and they're reconnecting, and some of these people used to be enemies, they're not anymore, there's tensions. So if you're thinking of some of your traditional D&D stuff, you're probably getting a good idea. There's definitely cultural tension there. It's been built in deliberately. Genetic engineering is a huge part of the story. Humanity literally doesn't exist anymore at this. This isn't a where has humanity gone. Basically, the characters that you're playing is things that humanity has created, or what humanity created. Humanity is that long gone at this point that humanity is myth. which I kind of saw as a
interesting.
I could have fun with that because it's kind of fun to twist things that you know and make it that it's 100%.
Yeah, because looking at this and everything, the first time I'm thinking was like, okay, so it's Shadowrun, but with 3d6. But the fact that there's no human element, which I kind of like. I mean, who sits down and plays Dungeons and Dragons like, I'm going to be a human warrior?
The people that do that generally want to be overpowered.
You can go outside with a sword, and you're a human warrior.
Well, yes, until you're arrested.
Yeah. What do human warriors do in the D&D? They get into fights and they get arrested. And then they have to break out of jail, and then...
that's fair. That's actually a very good point. As George alluded to, this is a 3d6 system. Literally, 3. That's everything that you use. Everything that you do in this game is based around 3d6. There's bonuses and penalties depending on the difficulty of things. It's designed specifically to be adaptive because the guy that was creating it kind of was like, look, it doesn't matter the story that I create, everybody's always going to eventually try to make something of their own. And so it was designed so that you could just essentially cut and paste, which is where the season stuff comes in.
So, quick question then. So, since this guy's based out of Australia, is he selling and distributing dice for Australia so that they're calibrated to work in the Southern Hemisphere and not roll ones all the time?
Good question. You can get dice from him.
Sox, I love the look on Sox's face though as soon as I started to say that because he knew right where he was going.
Yeah, because I didn't, of course. Yeah. I mean, the website talks about how it's non-linear progression. That is essentially what you're thinking it is. You can go in different paths and stuff. That's fairly standard for most rule sets now. There's specific rules around spare time and what you're doing and that sort of stuff. I have played a game of this with some friends. There is a very good storyline. Like, you know how if you play role-playing games, most of the pre-created missions tend to be rather crap? I mean, I know that D&D pre-mates have their fans, but a lot of people don't even look at them because they want to create their own thing. The story Let Sleeping Gods Lie is, if you're interested in this sort of setting, I would argue the perfect place to start. It gives you a story where you legitimately don't know where it's going, unless you're the GM, obviously.
Well,
I'll give you the pitch without ruining it.
Can I stop you real quick and...
Yeah?
Can I stop you real quick and go back half a step? The more and more I'm clicking on stuff and reading through this, I think this is a really great thing, and here's why. So if you go to the free downloads, you got character sheets, okay? You got GM sheets, quick start rules, sample adventure, pre-made player characters. You literally could sit down with a group of people who knows nothing about playing an RPG, rolling dice, and no one who has GM experience. They got sheets to help them out, like beyond just a pre-made adventure. And this is really cool.
It even gives you some sample audios that you can use.
Yeah,
not that they're hard to find.
This is going back about 20 some odd years, but the first time I played D&D, it was, there's a group of us who were like, yeah, we're talking about that. Well, like, none of us have played it. We just happened to randomly find one guy who's like, oh yeah, I played all the time. I used to DM, and like that's how we were finally able to play, because we're like, we had no clue what we were doing.
Yeah.
And to have all of this like handed to you like here, I mean, it's very telling of today's society, but for games, I think it's a very important thing to make sure everything that you need to play the game, or an example of how to play the game, is provided so that you can play the game.
Yeah. Lots of sample artwork to give you an idea of who the characters are. The books are actually quite a good read too, ironically. But no, I definitely agree with you on that. There is some companies that do this stuff. in our industry too, really, but not enough of them. Not Games Workshop.
A prime example, TTCombat. You buy a box, you can play a game.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Games Workshop. You have to buy 12 boxes before you play a game. You know, it's how it is.
Pretty much.
Okay, 12 is an exaggeration. It's 10.
11 depends on the army.
Yeah.
But then you've also
if
got
you're
to
playing a
go out,
night army, you buy.
you also have to go out and spend $150 to get the book with the rules. Plus
Oh,
the
right,
actual rules, not just the rules for your army, and then the supplement for the version of the army that you're playing. Sorry, are we being salty? Sorry, my mistake.
Either Captain Sucks' internet froze again, or he's just glazed over.
I'm just glazed over.
For Captain Sox's benefit, you know how with TTCombat, like you get the book for the game and that's it?
Yep.
With Games Workshop, you at minimum would have to buy 2 books before you can even start playing. And I mean literally minimum of 2. It's in the new session. It's eventually going to be you'll need to buy 3.
Jeez.
Well,
That's ridiculous.
all of the like Dark Angels have a supplement, and you need the Space Marine Codex for it to work. Same with the Blood Angels. It's going to be the same with the Space Wolves if it's not already. It's just the way it is. It's the way they used to do it. Anyway, the opening story I was talking about a minute ago, and this is where I'll leave it off. You guys start essentially in the middle of a market planet. It's kind of like it's an expensive place to be. You've kind of run down most of your money. You don't have a lot left. It's the usual sort of story of how you end up being a level 1 character. You've kind of gotten yourself into that situation. You end up getting a job because this old technology ship has kind of drifted out from an asteroid belt and is kind of accessible for the first time in a long time. It's like, I want you to get me that ship. And this ship is like so old. Because this is post-apocalypse, technology is not as good as it used to be either, because it's always not as good as it used to be either. So it's like, this is potentially worth a lot of money. But it doesn't end up just being as simple as the crew gets to the ship and you have to fight off things and then you take the ship over and figure out how to fly it back. It ends up having one really big twist. Like there's a competitor that's trying to get the ship before you. That's something that I like having in games. It's not something that tends to get done a lot. I kind of like in D&D where you have like a non-player character party that's trying to beat you to all of this stuff. It gives you a rivalry and something that's not just the usual I'm evil. But there's actually a bigger twist that you shouldn't see coming. And that by the time you do figure it out, it's potentially too late. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with that. And depending on where the story goes at the end of the day, gives you a really good launching pad to either just do whatever the hell you want or follow because there is a next story after this if you want to keep on going down that path. And I kind of, especially in the case of what you were saying, George, where people don't know the setting or haven't played a role-playing game before, I like having the option of starting with a story that actually works and isn't just A to B. It actually has a couple of different paths that you can go down, some potential choices that you can make that you'll regret or not regret, and so on and so forth. After we've finished recording, I might tell you guys what the twists are. I don't want to mention it on recording for obvious reasons, because then it kind of ruins the story. And then maybe next time you can tell me what you actually thought about the actual story itself.
Well, I'll tell you what I think right now. The core rulebook that is listed on this link for 90 AUD, that's $65.
It's also about that thick.
Really?
Yeah, it's actually a really big book. You can buy digital.
Wow.
You can buy digital versions of these too.
Well, I just look at the prices of this because they do have a US Canada store.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the price is super reasonable on a lot of this stuff. And then the shipping, it's $10 to US mainland postage.
Yep.
Not bad.
About the only thing that's pricey, and Games Workshop has done a great job of acclimating people to this. 25 Australian dollars for a mini, and then $5 for the shipping, which is 30. So $23 a mini.
Yep. But to be fair, the core rulebook's actually sold out at the moment. But watch it. It will eventually come back. If I click on something, I don't actually have my rulebook with me. Otherwise, I'd check how many pages it is. But it's actually a thick book. Personally, I have the digital versions of everything, with the exception of the Protagonists archive that I have a physical copy for. And that's because I actually won a huge set of these many moons ago. I got really lucky because I never win anything. But I backed the Protagonists archive on the Kickstarter and got that. That opened up a couple of new races, and some of which that are really fun. There's a couple of races where it's like you have two brains at the same time that are working against each other. It's quite unique. It's not actually brains, but yeah. However, what's up next? Is it hobby time? I think it's hobby time.
Hobby time.
I think it's hobby time. Stop.
Blue, prime, paint.
I just thought of a new bumper there for stop. Hobby time. What's MC Hammer doing these days? Can he record that for us?
He is still around. What is he doing?
Captain Socks.
What
are you up to?
Nothing. So Bruce and I were talking about this, having 5 kids, and
he's 3
to 4 of the 5 nights. Yeah, absolutely. 3 to 4 nights during the week, I'm out doing stuff, whether it's karate or other kids' activities. So running around or watching the other half of the kids while mom is running them around.
What the heck are you doing? You have 5 kids. That's a D&D party right
actually,
there.
we spent 4 hours playing D&D today, actually, this afternoon.
So you have done hobby then.
That is absolutely awesome right there.
So my oldest 3 boys, youngest is 8, he'll be 9 in April, and the wife is, we're all doing a D&D session. I ran them through Trestador Manor and the Lost Mines of Foundover, kind of going through this starting scenario for them before we start getting into the fun stuff later on. So
nice.
If you want to count that as hobby time, that's what I've been doing.
As for all of the excuses,
not only is it hobby time,
not
as only hobby time, it's also family time, which makes it like a double kill right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So
as for all of the excuses, George, are you familiar with the term racing drivers' excuses?
I feel like it right now.
I can't talk too much about it. What have you been up to, George, other than laying carpet or pretending to?
Or finishing kitchens.
No. Casey's been finishing kitchens. He's just taking the credit.
That's true.
Well, I've been going through and managing all my Kickstarter projects.
The ones that you were going to stop doing.
Oh God, yeah. So all the white box samples have been released for Ankh. Stuff looks fantastic. Hell, the Last Saga they're putting out for playtesters.
Nice.
I'm not taking part in that because I don't have the time to playtest. The cool thing though is Mythic Games on their little, What's Up Wednesday. They're like, so we got so many applications, and there's applications of people who want to do it as a group, and then there's a bunch of people because they said this game could be played solo mode. There's people like, I want to play test this by myself, and they're like, this is great because that's what we need to test too. So then I've got ISIS Vanguard that I need to wait for the pledge manager. I have Nemesis coming. I have I got my Massive Darkness 2 all lined up.
So you'll be busy for the next year and a half, 2. 5.
Decade?
Yeah.
Because also too, Bruce, I gotta pledge in on Primal the Awakening.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. That did look
So, yeah, I've been spending a lot of time getting all those ducks in a row for stuff, and now I'm sitting here thinking like, where am I going to put all this stuff now?
Well, that's the thing. Speaking of, at some point before the end of February, you and I are going to be playing a game, at least a game, of Super Fantasy Brawl.
Yep.
Which, hopefully, we're going to get a record on. We're probably going to run it through ourselves first before we do that, though. I know you've had a couple of games with your family, but I haven't had a game of it at all yet, so...
Just one game with Sam, so...
Yeah.
That being said, I did pick up a tabletop simulator, so I can start running through some of these games now and learning the rules, so that it's not like, here's 12 boxes of something. Crap, now I have to read the rules for this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a couple. Speaking of tabletop simulator, I have a couple as well. I've got the new Dropfleet mod. I've got a couple hordes of board games on there, and so I love that platform. It's such a great little platform to be able to play games online with folks. So
I had the old version of the Dropfleet one before they fixed it, and I gave up almost instantly because it was really confusing. But from what I understand, they fixed most of the questions that I had about it.
So I tried out the new one a little bit, and it's awesome. Very easy to set up, very easy to play a game.
Yeah.
So right now the models are all 2D, but I know they're working on trying to get 3D models built into the mod. So
yeah.
And then the same team that did the Dropfleet is going to be working on a Drop Zone mod. So
yeah,
that'll be nice.
There is a lot of call for that.
Yes.
Hobby-wise for me, this will be your chance, Captain Socks, to have a go back, because I have.
I was going to say you've been on holiday.
I haven't even been in the same state. Well, as of last Friday. I did, however, get the 2 eagles painted. I had kind of touched on the fact that I was making up some gifts for family. It got received well, so that's good. I was kind of nervous about that. If anybody watched my video on the subject, you know how nervous I was about that. Mum's is currently sitting on top of her fridge. Nan's is sitting on the dresser drawer in front of her. Nan, I had to do a smaller one for Nan because she has practically no space anywhere because she's in a caring facility. So, and if anybody's ever been in one of those, the rooms are not big. So, yeah, that went well. There was a potential that I was going to bring a hobby down with me. It was a matter of if something had arrived in time or not, but it didn't arrive in time.
And it didn't.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
It was a small window that it would have, but I wasn't holding my... I think I touched on this last time as to what it was. There's an RC card that I was looking at. Well, I am looking at. I'm just waiting for it to get here. And it was arriving in February, but I didn't know when in February. I had suspicions that it would be the end of February, but I was like, maybe I'll get lucky. I wasn't lucky. Looking into it more though, hobby-wise, there is something I kind of wanted to discuss on the RC front. Have either of you ever done like the build your kit RC stuff?
I tried.
Yeah, I've done one.
Okay.
Mine wasn't a car. Mine was going to be an airplane, and out of balsa wood.
Yeah,
That was going to be.
Don't
a
start with
nightmare.
clean socks.
So I gave up.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I did a TA. No, you've got the TA01. I can't remember which one I had, but it was more of a rally car chassis setup.
Yeah. So was yours pre-painted or not?
No, mine was not.
Yeah. Okay, so you'll get what I'm going to go to.
Let me backtrack. The kit came with a pre-painted body.
Okay, so
I then proceeded to go and buy additional bodies and then paint them myself.
Oh, so you do know where I'm going with this then. Because the thing I found interesting... okay, so when we're painting things in our hobby, there is a very set way in which you do most things. You'll start with your darker colours and you work to your lighter and so on and so forth. And the last thing you do is your highlighting, because you can't put it on first because otherwise you won't see it. It'll be underneath everything. RC cars is the other way around, which took me... I mean, the moment I heard why, it made sense. but it's also really weird. Because when you're painting an RC kit, and George will know this, you paint the inside of it, not the outside of it.
Yep.
And because you're painting the inside of the body, the highlighting needs to be first. Now, a lot of people don't bother with like great detail like this because they let the decals kind of do most of their work for them. But so the kit that I'm waiting on is a pre-painted body, but I'm going to be getting a different shell for it that I intend to paint up. And I'm deliberately going to do something that is not looking anything like the box. Deliberately so that I can watch all of the RC guys tear their hair out trying to figure out why I would have the audacity to paint something and not make it look like the box.
Well, yeah.
I'm essentially making the same joke that I do with historian games.
Yeah. No, it took me a second to wrap my head around the whole, like, so you mask off the areas that you don't want the body color.
Yeah.
Then you do the body color, because that's, like, the biggest and the fanciest looking. Then you start peeling back the masking and doing a layer, and you know, at a time.
Yeah.
And so typically the last layer that you peel off for the people who do that is the window masking, and then you do your layer of black to put black behind everything and the windows.
Yeah. Depending on the colours. Because if you have bright colours, you want to back it with a white to make them pop.
Well, except for yellow.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you want to put down like a good heavy yellow, and then if you hit it with a black, it'll actually make the yellow look richer.
Interesting. The suggestion I was reading went the other way. Although they were talking about fluorescent paints, that might be why.
Yeah, if you're doing like a metal flake, you know, like looks like auto paint.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with metal. Yes, you're right. Yeah. Now, Captain Socks, I suspect that my earlier question to you probably makes more sense now.
It absolutely does now, because he's going to paint it silver and green. I was like, why is he talking about designing a car and asking about green and silver colors? Now it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. My plan for the other body that I'm going to do is I want to paint it up to make it look like it's a car that was sponsored by us.
Oh, nice.
So my question was, do I do it different grades of green, or do I like a green and a silver, or a green and a white? I was leaning towards the green and the silver, which is also the way that Socks went. There's options for like a metallic green or a regular green. I'm thinking that I'll go with the regular green, like a darker colour, but a regular green, because then the silver will pop a little bit more. And I'm going to kind of do my own decals, try and get a decal done up of the logo, and another one done with our names on the side with the flags to make it look like we're the drivers. That's the idea anyway.
That'd be awesome.
That will be a long-term plan because I'm not ready for that, but
that sounds pretty snazzy.
Yeah. Or at the very least, because I could do the body, but the doing my own decal, because decals can be done at any point. It doesn't really matter if I do the decals now or later. And if I want to do custom ones, then I can do them in a month or so's time. My theory is either one of two things. Either it's mainly green, and then I have like silver pinstripes. That's the way that I'm leaning. The other option is that it's like green with like the front half of it silver or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm going to try and make it look like it's like a fairly standard looking touring car look. So most of my hobby has been research as opposed to hobby, apart from the gifts that I gave away. Otherwise...
So, that being said too, I need to get going on my Blood Bowl army because get started, and my first opponent is just like, hey, when can you play? And I'm like, February?
We're in February.
I thought you'd already started on that.
Yeah, well, so I've got the base done. I've got the decals done. It's been like that before COVID started, before kitchen. So it's like I need to do the pants, I need to do the boots, I need to do the hair, I need to do the skin, I need to do the weapons.
At the risk of being that guy, it doesn't have to be fully painted to play a game. So
No,
look, usually,
but-
I mean, I don't know about the league that you're in, but usually most leagues is more along the lines of you need to have it done by X amount of games.
Well, and this is a pretty loosey goosey league. One of the guys
Well, it's
doesn't
even less
own
of
a
an issue.
single Games Workshop mini. He 3D prints all of his stuff.
That's fine.
So, but it's me and my personal pride of I need to get it painted when I play with it.
Yes.
So,
But how long do you expect this person to wait for you?
I'm planning trying to get in there sometime this week.
Well, we expect you to have your painting done by 1.
By Wednesday.
Shall we move on to game talk?
Talk nerdy to me.
So, this episode, we are returning to Dropfleet Commander. And we are going to be discussing the lighters.
The newest class of ships.
George looks very confused.
That's a stealth lighter.
It is a stealth fighter. So yes, this is the Lysander. It's a stealth fighter. It's also a launch drop ship with a launch of 1. And Barracuda missile base is its only weapon really. 27 points. You got 1 to 3 grouping with 0 signature. So it's a full cloak, rare ship. So pretty nice that you can zip these up the board with a thrust of 12 inches. Get them down into the atmosphere with atmospheric rules, and start dropping ships or launch assets pretty fast. How fast are the Scourge regular drop ships? They're Bruce. Are they 12 inches? Can't remember. It's been a while since I played.
No, Sheltari were 12. I think everything else is like 6 to 8.
Or I think
Or
Scourge.
10.
Or I was gonna say I think Scourge was around 10, if I remember correctly.
That's the way I was leaning, but hang on. So we're just talking about strike carriers and stuff, right?
Well, the strike carriers themselves for the Scourge. Yeah.
Okay, so
I
strike
wanna say they
carrier...
were about.
No, strike carriers are 12.
Okay.
Oh, damn it, I went back. So, strike carriers are 12. Let's have a look at a destroyer. That is 10, so that's where your 10's coming from, is the regular ships.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there just a lighter per faction?
There is 1 lighter per faction, so
Yes.
don't go looking for
Okay.
more. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Only 1 right now per faction. So this one's it's 2 inches faster than the New Orleans strike carrier, the normal strike carrier that the UCM have, but still in some of those longer, especially the diagonals type of games, this will come in handy for the UCM. Especially if you're having full cloak, that'll be huge.
Yeah, full cloak is fairly awesome. Dealing with a faction that they have rather large signatures
Yes.
when they use an ability. I like it. I think the model looks pretty cool too. It's very sleek.
Yes.
It's very
Yeah. It
your
does-
typical UCM scan range.
Yep.
Um,
Armor 6, it's a little harsh, but I understand. I mean, it's a very, very light, small ship, so I can understand the 6 armor, hull of 2.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But you're not going to be needing to use it that much if you're not getting popped with scans or you're not doing double boost on your moves and you're adding those scans to yourself, those signatures to yourself.
Yeah.
So.
So I'm guessing that we are going for the Scourge next.
Yes.
So for the Scourge, that's UCM. For the Scourge, we have the Hiruko, which is a boarding cutter. So this is a ramming ship, which we will come back to and explain in a second. We've got a 6-inch scan, again fairly typical. Signature of 2, so this is nice and small. That's kind of in line with the what are the other small ships called?
Monitors.
No, the ones where you get like
No,
the nickels and stuff.
Oh,
the knickers.
Corvettes.
Yes, Corvettes.
Corvettes, thank you. So it's the same sort of as those. These actually have a thrust of 14, so it's actually a bit bigger. They've got a hull of 2, an armor of 6+. Again, I kind of get that. Point defense of 1. They come in a group of 1 to 3. L is light.
Light
Sorry.
tonnage.
Yep. This is outlier, so this is something that can kind of go by itself. It doesn't have to stick in the group. Ramming ship. This ship may ram enemy ships, even though it is a light tonnage. Additionally, when determining the attack dice from ramming ships, double this ship's original hull. Ramming hits from this ship have the Corruptor special rule. So literally, this is those things that you see in sci-fi movies where the entire ship is designed to ram and then cut through the ship. So in the case of like the old Justice League cartoon, they had these ships that kind of gripped onto the side and then cut through until they got through and then enemies came out of it. So in theory, these things, all of these things on the front here are lasers.
Are you sure about the outlier special rule on that, Bruce? Because I don't think that sounds right.
Open is the one that allows them to go on their own. Outlier allows them to stay outside of the normal battle group.
Yes.
Grouping.
But that group of ships has to stay together. Okay.
Outlier, they still have to stay together as their little squadron.
Yeah.
But within
okay.
the actual battle group themselves, they can be outside of that cohesion realm.
Because you will have to take this along with something else. And it doesn't have to stay next to that something else. So
you're going to ram into something.
Yeah, you're going to ram into
points.
something. The laser cuts through, and then it lets out all of the... Yes, thank you. The worms, yeah. Plasma Torch has a lock of 4+. It's got D3 attacks, which is either really good or really bad. For me, it's bad because I roll 1s all the time. 1 damage, and it's a front arc, which kind of makes sense. I like this. I like this a lot. It's only a close action, so you have to be close anyway, and there's no reason why you wouldn't want to be.
You'd probably get one shot in at close action before you ram the ship. So
yeah, I actually do have a packet of these. I haven't built them yet. They're 18 each, just for the record. I like I said, I like these a lot. I am looking forward to playing these in a game because I have a feeling these are something that are either going to do a lot of damage or they're not. This is something that could go either way. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to using these. I have a feeling that people are going to hate them, and when I say people are going to hate them, I mean because of what they do. They're going to hate to see them because they don't want to face them. Because they're light, that means that you can get them down. So it's too hard to hit them and then bring them back up and then ram, and it's all kinds of
especially with 18 points, that's 54 points to bring 3 of them, so it's cheap to bring 3 ships to potentially do 6 whole damage depending on if you actually hit them with the ramming or not. So
yeah, which
could cripple a normal cruiser or seriously damage a heavy cruiser. So
yeah, they also look really cool. Personally, I think that. Up next, I believe PHR is the one that you want to discuss?
Hippocrates. So it's a Gorilla lighter, 30 points, 6-inch scan against, 2-inch signature with a thrust of 10, hull of 2, armor 5. Obviously, with the PHR armor that they kind of have, they have better armor than everybody else, as we know. 30 points apiece with a grouping of 1 to 2. It can be atmospheric as well as outlier, so it can go off and fly on its own, as we just discussed. When I read this, it's an EM sabotage type of ship. So when I first read this, or they must have updated, I don't know, either one. If this weapon hits, the target ship gets put on silent running orders until the end of its next activation. I think I missed that until the end of its next activation. And so when I first read this, I thought it was only designed against one faction, and that was the Shaltari, primarily because to get rid of their shields. But since it's any ship at the end of its activation, I think that's just really, really good. Because yes, you're putting them on silent running, so their signature is going to go down to 0, but that means that they can't shoot at you except for one weapon system.
It's not
until the end of the
What was it? What was the name of it again? Socks.
Harpocrates.
Hippocrates.
Okay. Well, it's a gorilla lighter, so I think it's named wrong. I think it should be called the Harambe.
Yeah. By the way,
Nice.
I know that I said that I wanted to get a whole thing of gorilla miniatures for an army, but this is not what I meant.
Okay.
No, I like this. There's two. Can you shoot yourself if you wanted to?
I don't think you can.
Okay, never mind. You couldn't use this on yourself to get yourself silent running if you needed.
It would be nice.
Because my theory was
that would be ridiculous.
So I have
Yeah, you
this
bring in your
dreadnought that I've just used, and I've gone weapons free, and it's now as hot as hot can be.
Yeah.
And
that would be broken.
It's in the same battle group. It's in the same battle group. So you're like, let me shoot this, like you said, dreadnought, and just
Weapons free it.
boom.
Yeah.
Get it.
I'm gonna shoot it with this.
Overbloom the
This,
entire thing, and then can't see me anymore. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Especially when it doesn't do any damage.
yes,
Right?
yes.
Lucas, can we get... Lewis, can we get a confirmation on that? If you happen to
Yeah,
be
'cause-
listening? Or Michelle.
Interesting.
Because we'll get an
I don't
answer
think
from
you-
Michelle before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just FYI, Captain Socks will agree with this. Friendly fire isn't.
No, but this one doesn't
No,
do
it's
any
not.
damage.
I have to agree with that. If it's doing 0 damage, then I'm all up for the friendly fire on this with this ship alone. Like we all discussed.
Wow.
I'm
it's a good
looking
thing
at-
you're in the Air Force.
Well, in the case of this, if you're shooting something that needs the silent running, you're protecting it. If you're
Yeah.
shooting at something that needs to use its gun still, then you're stopping it from using its gun.
Or if you're facing Shalchara and you want to get rid of those shields real quick for
Yeah.
at least 2 turns, this
Yes.
is the way to go.
Yeah.
It works
Well,
potentially both ways.
Yes.
yeah.
I have a feeling that I'm going to be
gonna
wrong
say-
and that you can't use it the way that I want to use it. I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
I think they're gonna come out and say like, no, you can't shoot yourself with this.
That'd be too overpowering for the PHR.
Yeah, that it would be broken. Like there's very little that you could do to help that, because then there's no downside to going weapons free.
Especially with the Romulus or Remus, and especially with the
Yeah.
Romulus with their overcharged, which we'll discuss in a couple episodes when we go over the Dreadnoughts. But
Yeah.
a 14 burn through weapon that you can overcharge and double that to 28 damage, potentially.
Yeah. George, did you want to discuss the helium?
Well, yes, I would like to discuss helium.
Thank you.
So in traditional Shaltari fashion, it has a scan of 8, more than the other lighters. It has a signature of 1-8, which means this has shields apparently.
Yeah.
Thrust of 16, so it'll get out there before anything else. Hull of 2, that's a pretty big hull. As far as I mean, if you look at the glass corvettes, which are 1 hull, but those are stupid cheap.
Yeah.
Armor 6.5, 3-point defense, groups of 1 to 3, tonnage light, atmospheric, outlier, and vector. So atmospheric obviously goes in the atmosphere. Outlier doesn't have to stay with the group, but the group of 3 have to stay together. And then vectored, which means you can make 2 turns in your movement phase. So with a 16-inch being able to do a vectored turn, wow.
That's pretty nice. Turn up to 90
Yeah. Void skip. If this ship goes on standard orders within 6 inches of void gate, rather than making a normal move, you place it within 6 inches of another void gate in the void gate chain within 18 inches as normal, facing any direction, and it receives a minor spike. It may be put within 1 orbital layer up or down of the void gate it is placed it by. When doing this, the whole group must move together. That's not broken.
It's just nasty.
It's nasty. Yeah.
That. I'm over here. Okay, well, I'm going to focus all the stuff over here. Okay, well, they're over here now.
That's exactly how the old Shaltari used to play in Drop Zone. Is you could move your entire army in a single turn, pretty much, and they just copied this right into Dropfleet.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and when you go into the weapon, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say here's the next gross part. It's a Shaltari weapon, so it's got a lock of 3 up, just like every other Shaltari weapon. You only get 1 attack. Usually you get like 2, 3, 4 attacks with that. But this one's doing 2 damage, so that's that's even better. Let's see. Let me click through here real quick.
It's also front and
2 attacks,
side.
1 damage.
Yeah, front and side too.
D3, 1 damage.
70-degree arc.
Yeah, so like all these other ones are 5 up, 4 up, a 4 up. So this is the 3 up. Let's see. Yeah, it's a 3 up. So best ratio to hit with, because that's 3-4 crit on 5-6. So 2/3 of your results are gonna hit. If it gets through 2 damage, it's cool. You know, that'll take out half of a frigate. Easy.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the arcing on it. 27 points. This is what the original cost of the glass was, if I remember correctly.
This is,
it was a.
I think it was before the point reduction.
Yeah. So.
Does anybody disagree
overall,
with me when I
this...
say this is must take?
No, I would take this playing Shaltari. I would take a grouping of these.
I would take this playing as
I would
bloody
take these
Scourge if I could.
Yeah.
I would take I'd probably take 2 groups of these.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Because imagine the harassing you could do with it.
3 of them in each
So
group.
it's a 4-foot board. So a 48-inch table. This moves 16 inches, so that's more than a quarter of the board in a turn. Oh, but if you're a typical Shaltari player and you get a drop gate chain in place, well, you could just move anywhere on the board.
Yep.
In a turn without thinking about it. So it's atmospheric, which that's the one thing that in my opinion the Shaltari have really lacked in
Is weapons
as far as a ship type.
Yeah.
Is atmospheric weapons, yeah, because sure the void gates can go atmospheric, but 1 shot 5 up. Ooh.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but atmospheric means that you can use your weapon in atmosphere, not that you can get into atmosphere.
Yeah, you can use it in atmosphere without you can
penalty,
shoot into atmosphere with other weapons, but that's always on a 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
because getting into atmosphere is a thing about your weight class, not about a rule, from memory. My rule books are
it's because all of the frigates except for the strike carriers for the PHR and UCM can go in atmosphere. Only the strike carriers for UCM and PHR can go in atmosphere because they have atmospheric rules.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected then.
So atmospheric allows you to get into atmospheric, but it also sometimes applies to the weapon itself as well, that you can allow it to shoot into atmospheric without having that 6+ lock.
Yep.
Right.
Now.
Well, wait. Go back. So, and this weapon, it's only a close action, so it doesn't have the atmospheric special rule. But close action weapons work in atmosphere because it's a close action. It's not a ranged weapon.
Yeah.
So, but it's a Shaltari, so it has a range of 8.
Yep.
Scourge have a scan of 6. Yes.
So yeah, that's the lighters. Resistance, I don't believe, have a lighter, but
yes, they do.
They have the Seneca.
Oh, I was just looking at that. I didn't think it was a lighter. But
yeah, it is. It's gross.
Are we just going to cover this with everything else resistance, like we said in the previous one?
Yeah, we can just cover this with all resistance stuff.
Okay.
So we'll hold off on.
Okay.
But they do have a lighter as well.
Cool.
Okay.
So, upcoming events?
upcoming events.
Oh, you still don't have one. Boo. All right.
Well, I remember saying this a while ago. We've done upcoming events so long without a bumper. I thought it was like the thing. We don't have the bumper for it.
I have a bumper. I have a bumper for it.
Yeah, I'll get one going.
I have a bumper for everything. Project 500 is still going. We are just now doing the month of February now instead of January. So again, it's trying to paint 500 points of either drop fleet or drop zone each month. The idea is general hobby motivation. I don't know of a competition that's happening in team with it this time. If I've missed that, then I apologise, Michelle. I just haven't seen one. I've been interstate, so I haven't been online. The UK Games Expo, as we mentioned last time, has new dates. It's now happening from Friday the 31st of July until Saturday the 1st of August. Keep an eye on the UK Games website. If you had tickets from its original time in 2020 and did not request for them to be refunded, then those tickets are still current. Regardless of whether this ends up being more expensive or not. That's just a bonus for you. If you did get a refund, then you've got your refund and you'll have to buy more tickets because you can't have it both ways, obviously. Because that wouldn't be fair. The brush...
Gen Con...
Gen
Sorry,
Con?
Bruce.
No, that's all right.
Gen Con is the following weekend, so it's August 5th through the 8th.
That makes sense.
It'll be hopefully it'll happen this year. Again, if you had tickets from this last year, your tickets are good for this year's as well. I remember that when I was doing my refund for my tickets.
Did you get refunded or did you let it ride?
I did. I got refunded because I didn't know if I was going to be here around. I didn't know if I was going to be moving. So I refunded my tickets, but I if I remember correctly, going through that process, that they said tickets would count from last year to this year.
Yeah.
So.
Because most people, generally speaking, would have still been there. You were in a fairly unique situation.
Yep.
The Brush Beast painting competition is going as of right now. It started on the 1st of August, and it continues until
February.
1st of February.
Do you want 2021 to be over that quick already?
I don't really have strong opinions on 2021 yet. Continues through to May 31st. 5 categories: single miniature, large miniature, machine of war, masters, which is an open category, and a 5 model squad, which is a studio category. 1 entry per person or studio. It must be your own work, obviously. Pictures must be provided before it was primed and when completed. Unless it's
Masters category.
Unless it's Masters category. Because Masters category, it not being primed first doesn't really matter because it's usually about a 6-month process, if not longer. Facebook.com/groups/brushbeast if you want to get in on it. This is a painting competition that's being run by the same guys that did that Studio X painting station that we discussed a few times. If you're up
that
for it,
should be
do
shipping out here next month.
I won't mind. Otherwise, anything else that you guys want to cover before we go into the end spiel?
I think we're good.
Yep.
I need a nap.
I was going to say, as George is yawning on camera.
So, thank you to everybody that does continue to support us. If you would like to support us, you can do so on patreon.com/gettingtabled. We only ask for $2 a month. That goes towards us trying to improve the podcast, as well as get the equipment and so forth that we need, pay for the subscription services that we need to run this, most of which is being run out of our own pocket at this point. Any help that you can give would be massively appreciated. Whether it
even emotional support.
Yeah, like whether it's in financial ways or whether it's in sharing and subscribing and sharing us with people that you think would enjoy it. If you want to reach out on social media, facebook.com/gettingtabled is the main one. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram @gettingtabled. We do have a YouTube channel. Just search for Getting Tabled, and we're literally the first result. In fact, I think we're the first 10. And email is at gettingtabled@gmail.com. Website's gettingtabled.weebly.com. Thank you again. Thank you, George. Thank you, Captain Socks. Although you're both up there, actually. Thank you. Oh, no, you're down here.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
No.
Thank you. I've got to remember which way
No.
it's being recorded.
I'm sitting there, George.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Captain Socks.
You're down there.
No, both of you are down there. I'm on top. I'm on top. I'm always on top.
Your number. Oh wait. What button is it? It's this button.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matthias at soundimage.org.